All right, we'll try to make sense of this political environment. Try anyway.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
Great to have you in. Thanks very much for tuning in. Look, the national political landscape is so complicated, and yet we have taken kind of a numbing agent over it because of how we deal with Donald Trump, right? So we're not really talking about it at the pre-holiday get-togethers too much, right? We're trying to avoid it with friends and family. We've learned over time, especially through COVID and the politics of COVID and all that kind of thing, to kind of keep our distance. If somebody at the Thanksgiving Day table this last week or two started getting into it, someone asked to please pass the potatoes, right? I think we've gotten conditioned to dealing with our political landscape in a way that doesn't create any more fissures in our personal and professional lives. Part of that, I think, is a good coping mechanism, but it's really kind of like when the dentist puts the numbing agent on your tooth. Whatever drilling is going on, you don't feel it. I think all the drilling is all this Trump trial, 94 counts, criminal, civil, Republicans getting after each other, fighting for what seems to be a useless competition to finish a distant second to him anyway. Democrats trying to figure out what they do with the old man, all due respect, and the old man's not going anywhere. Middle East, that is now a tempest in a teapot, and now we're seeing what seems to be some branding ownership of the fight against anti-Semitism versus the protection and advocacy for the Palestinians, and what do we do with Ukraine, and what's up with that? And we have a Speaker of the House who says, hey, listen, I'm going to get the tapes out of January 6th, but I don't want to show any faces because I don't want the law enforcement people to actually prosecute the people who were part of an insurrection. And all of that is when the dentist is like, zzz, 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 and we're kind of numb to it, going, I don't want to feel this pain. Yet I tell you, the clock is moving, and decisions are going to be made by the American public, and the American public is responding to polls in a way that is, I think, puzzling to me and to all of us. But all of that mixed bag of random thought, I think, is in some of our heads sometimes. But look, I'm not you, because for a living, to pay the mortgage, I kind of have to talk about this stuff. So I always go to the top pollster in the state to say, what do you think people think, and how do they react to all of this? And so Joe Fleming is in the house. Premature introduction, but there you are, the premature introduction.
No problem.
But just, it's a safer premature situation. Yeah. Introduction is at least safe, right? But let's, why don't we, good to see you.
Good to see you, my friend.
Happy early holidays.
Thank you.
Why don't we just run a headline and a package here and kind of start off with this. The fourth GOP debate, which was an early mess. Both Joe and I, by the way, quit on this. I don't know what time he stopped watching it, but I had seen enough myself. Here's a summary, if you will, of what went on.
All the policy debate that happened.
I am going to have fees on remittances from foreign workers when they send the money back to foreign countries. We're going to tax it, and we're going to build a wall with that.
That's why we need to end all normal trade relations with China until they stop murdering Americans with fentanyl.
There was plenty of sniping among the four candidates on stage.
You do this at every debate. You say, no, don't interrupt me. I didn't interrupt you.
Governors Ron DeSantis and Chris Christie, Ambassador Nikki Haley, and Vivek Ramaswamy all appeared at the fourth GOP presidential debate. But former President Donald Trump, the leader of their pack by nearly 50 points in some polls, skipped out again.
We've had these three acting as if the race is between the four of us. The fifth guy who doesn't have the guts to show up and stand here.
Christie hit Trump hard, his opponents less so.
I'm the only one running for president that has beaten these people on issue after issue.
Other topics included the economy, parental rights, border security, and the war in Israel.
Would you send American troops in to rescue those hostages?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's actually some context there for Chris Christie and his discussion of troops. He's talking about the saving hostages,
right?
Versus a random use of. I mean, that's a dangerous clip to leave it there, because people would say, wait a second, we don't want American soldiers involved in this Middle East conflict.
Right.
But for the purposes of extracting hostages, he said he absolutely would. Look, let's not do this program without you getting a chance to say "I told you so" on the congressional race. So we'll do that a little bit later on. But I can't remember between the television or the radio weekdays 3 to 6 on WPRI where I doubted Joe's theory on turnout in the congressional race. But once again, he's right and the chubby guy is wrong. But what a zoo this Republican circus sideshow thing is.
And the elephant's missing. The elephant in the room is missing.
Chris Christie's the only guy that right. continually reminds everybody that elephant is not in the room.
That's for sure. Donald Trump has basically gained by not going to these debates. If he went to these debates, they would be picking on him. Christie would be picking on him. The others may take some shots at him. Now he's staying away from it. His poll numbers are basically going up in some areas. The problem is, for the Republicans, there's too many Republican candidates running. Donald Trump has a base of like 45% of the vote in these primaries. In Iowa, the last poll I saw, he has 45%. Well, there's still enough vote in Iowa to beat him, but now when you have a number of candidates running and the votes all being divided up, and none of these candidates can find a way to bring Donald Trump down, or they can't get out of their own way because they can't move up in the polls. That right now in Iowa, you're trying for second place. If you get second place, you may have a little momentum going a week later into New Hampshire. But I would think the field's going to get very small after Iowa and New Hampshire. Maybe Donald Trump and one other person at the most.
I understand when you get down to brass tacks with 3 or 4 candidates, comparative to 2016 when there was
right.
a dozen, and then they slowly whittled down, that it's hard to get off the train, right? It's hard to get off the train. And there will be punditry that would suggest, oh, for the better and the bigger purpose and for the American people and for the party, it's the right thing to get off the train and pick one. It's hard to say, I'm the one who has to get off the train. Right. But what's amazing, Joe, is they're not learning from history.
No.
From 2016, that the same thing
right.
that caused Donald Trump to rise from whatever unviewed ashes he did is the same thing that's going to protect his potential return.
Exactly. And the thing is, they're not going to get out until they start running out of money. That's what gets people out of the races. When they have no money to keep the campaign going, then they basically say, well, my poll numbers are low.
Because supporters say, guess what, the
right.
jig is up, you can't
exactly.
make this happen.
When Nikki Haley just got an infusion of money, her poll numbers have gone up some, but she's still way behind the former president at this point. So, I mean, she has money right now from special interest groups that want to funnel money into the campaign, into IEs, independent expenditures. But again, she has to show some numbers moving up. Like if she does well in Iowa and does a strong second place, that could give her campaign momentum. Ron DeSantis has put all his effort into Iowa at this point. If he doesn't do well in Iowa, his campaign could almost be over.
We have a Nikki Haley soundbite, Eric. If we can play that, because she was having to defend some corporate money that she's been picking up.
When it comes to these corporate people that want to suddenly support us, we'll take it. But I don't ask them what their policies are. They ask me what my policies are. And I tell them what it is. Sometimes they agree with me, sometimes they don't. Some don't like how tough I am on China. Some don't like the fact that I've signed pro-life bills. Some don't like the fact that I may oppose corporate bailouts. That doesn't matter. That's who I am. And that's why the most conservative grassroots group in the country, Americans for Prosperity, endorsed me last week.
I wrote down the word Pollyanna when I heard that, because that's exactly what I don't know, common sense, legitimate, earnest voters want to hear, that everything has got a level of authenticity to it. And at the same time, she can't even say the word Trump.
No.
Like she, so the public is looking at, again, which public are we talking about? We're talking about
Right.
a primary
voters.
public. And then there's a general election public that's actually going, because the polling data is like, could whip Biden.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I think Nikki Haley in a general election would be really tough for Joe Biden. She's young, female. I think she'll be a tough sell in the sense where Republicans may have a little question about it, but I think independents, even some Democrats could possibly come over to her in a general election. I think her problem's the primary. And that's the point. If she can get close to Donald Trump, she could have a chance. The problem is no one's getting close to Donald Trump at this point. But she comes across as well and level-headed.
I can't, for the life of me, day in, day out, on the air, in my life, I can't for the life of me, other than this numbing agent analogy that I'm bringing to the table here, understand how this guy, with all the heat he's under and the way he's comporting himself, maintains this gaping lead.
He has a group of voters, Republican primary voters, that are supporting Donald Trump no matter what happens.
I get that.
And he's got the message out there that I'm being persecuted. That's why I did nothing wrong. They were all persecuting me because they don't want to see me back in the White House. And these people all believe that message. And so in turn, they feel very good supporting Donald Trump.
I don't know how deep you get into the psychology of the polling data that you work with from time to time, but yeah, you're always able to give me, Joe and I have a funny working relationship because there have been times, when I first met Joe, I would say, wait a second, people pay you all that money to state the obvious? Because you just stated the obvious again.
Right.
And sometimes the obvious is just what it is, man. But do you spend any time thinking about the psychology of why that is? I've been doing some reading on the human condition, and it's denial of prior, its tendency not to change its mind. In other words, human beings don't like to say, I made a mistake, and facts don't support the process to change one's mind. There's a psychology out there that says once you've said something, bought something, done something, saying, in this case, voting for somebody,
right?
Once you've said you're in, getting you out is near impossible.
It's possible, but it's difficult. Not totally impossible. I mean, Donald Trump has a personality that people just like. The Republican Party likes what they're hearing from Donald Trump. And he's out there saying nothing was wrong with January 6th. Everything was fine. And when you say it over and over and over, people are going to buy into it. So there's no reason for them to leave Donald Trump.
We have an acumen issue. I mean, nobody understands the Constitution, and we understand the Constitution is this document that formed the country, but we really don't understand much about it. Anyway, but to your point, it's difficult, meaning
right.
I keep talking about this sliver of the population, not necessarily in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, but the sliver of the national population that is determinant on being fluid in their decision making,
right,
is almost polably razor thin, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very small.
Is it 5? Is it 10? Is it 15% of the general voting population?
I would say 15-20% of the general voting population. That's just my opinion.
Is fluid.
Right. They're fluid, but you also have other people whose minds are just made up, and you're never going to move those people. There's people who are Democrats, there's people who are Republicans, and they don't care who the candidate is. They're going to vote for the Democrat, or they're going to vote for the Republican. In Rhode Island, it's Democrat. And in Utah, it's Republican.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the mind's not changing, but there's that fluid number of voters who can move around and do look at the issues, and those are the key voters in some of these swing states.
So this is part of why guys like Chris Christie just aren't selling. We'll come back and talk about that. Stay with us.
The fact is that when you go and you say the truth about somebody who is a dictator, a bully, who has taken shots at everybody, whether they've given him great service or not over time, who dares to disagree with him, then I understand why the Fees 3 are timid to say anything about it.
That's not selling.
No.
Again, it's that facts thing.
Right.
The guy's been honest, he's been candid, he's been on it.
But
it's not selling.
It's not selling with the Republican voters, and that's who he needs to get. That may sell with independent voters, that might even sell with Democrats, but with Republicans, it's not selling. Even the people who are supporting Haley and they're supporting Ron DeSantis, they still may like Donald Trump. They're just not voting for him at this point. Where everything Christie's saying is anti-Trump, and the voters are not listening to that. He's getting his 6, 7, 8 points in the primaries right now, but the problem is there's no room to grow. If you look at favorability among Republican voters, Christie's way down there. So, I mean, what he's doing is he's taking the shots at Trump where nobody else is, but his chance of moving up, you know, in the
I wonder,
Iowa,
did he think that he could shake everybody's cobwebs off, and was there some internal research that said that a larger portion of what we've been talking about prior of MAGA types might move, or that the independent or the vulnerable Republican caucus and poll goers might finally go, you know, he's right.
Well,
what?
I think what it is all of these people, once again, underestimated Donald Trump. They all thought he would self-destruct as you get into the primary season. With all the indictments going on, with all these other court cases going on, they thought he would self-destruct.
Well, Joe, what is
just the opposite?
So what's conviction going to do? There's a really good chance he's convicted in March. Now, well, you're going to get jury selection late February, early March at earliest. You're going to get a trial that runs through, say, let's say mid to late April. The whole thing expires, and it comes down with a conviction that he will appeal. Blah blah blah. We'll have 50-60% of the primary and caucuses done by that time. This game's over.
He would become the Republican nominee, but I saw some polling data about a month or so ago that said
if convicted,
he would lose by about 9 points to Joe Biden, which in this day and age, that's a blow-up.
But it doesn't shake enough of the Republican core to rid him a chance of the nomination.
No, due to the fact that most of the primary is over at this point.
So what does the party do if, in fact, that happens in 24, that he gets a conviction and is still running like a freight train for the presidency?
And I think that's what he'll do. He'll appeal the conviction, and he'll say, I'm being railroaded again, you know, that Joe Biden's a dictatorship. He's the one who's orchestrating all this. And you got to still vote for me. I'm going to straighten everything out.
All right,
He's been running on that for the last couple of years.
All right, we come back. Ramaswamy's flyer is right on Joe's thinking. Stay with us.
This is really important for people to understand. We're marching towards fascism under Biden. Jack Smith has subpoenaed every last retweet that someone has issued from Donald Trump in the year 2020. The only person more fascist than the Biden regime now is Nikki Haley, who thinks the government should identify every one of those individuals with an ID. That is not freedom. That is fascism. And she should come nowhere near the levers of power, let alone the White House.
I've got to get to Governor Christie. I haven't forgotten about
you. No, but can I just say,
can you?
This guy, you know, had a nice little bump because he was fresh.
Right.
I mean, let's laugh out loud. The stupidity of that rationale is laugh out loud funny.
He's playing the Trump supporters, big time. He's so much, even though he's running for president, he's still so much pro-Trump. You know, he's playing to that group of voters.
Pro-Trump or pro-anger or pro, I mean, his comportment, I mean, there are words I could use, but I can't use them on television, about how this kid comports himself, and he looks like a kid to me. We're both getting old, Joe. What's the play?
I'm not sure. Again, he had a lot of his own money into this campaign, so I mean, he's going out there trying to cut into the field. He had a little bump. It's fallen back. I think his messaging is not working with the primary voters at this point. And I would expect in Iowa he's probably going to finish, what, 4th or 5th, you know, at this point.
Right. So I'm not in the business of predictions anymore, but it is likely that we could get a conviction and a candidate that remains, and a party that is stuck with a nominee,
right,
who then now shows pollable damage from the conviction. What happens in late spring, midsummer? Does what does the GOP do? Have a nomination, a convention where there's some move on Trump, or what happens?
Again, that's all inside politics within the Republican Party. But if Donald Trump's convicted and he has the votes to be the nominee,
not unwindable.
Right. I don't think there may be something in their bylaws where they could change things. I'm not aware of that.
And that's why Joe Biden is just steady as he goes.
Joe Biden is just waiting for all this to end, for him to go up right against Donald Trump. And people may say Joe Biden's old, and you know we think he's very old to be president. But Donald Trump's only 3 years younger, but he comes with a lot of baggage. Do we want that baggage? Do we want the older guy, or do we want the baggage as our president?
Again, there's only 3 years difference between them. By the way, congressional race, I said what, and you said what, and you were right. About the turnout.
For once, right, for once.
No, not for once, not for once. I had said I can't see any kind of demonstrable turnout in the general election. Right. Thinking maybe Gary Leonard, the Republican running against Gabe Amel, the Democratic nominee in the special election to replace David Cicilline, could maybe have a bigger nucleus against a smaller turnout. Turns out people came out anyway.
People came out. I think in Rhode Island especially, there's a block of voters that will go out to vote no matter what. They know there's a congressional race. They're going to go out and vote. You got 60,000 instead of 150 or 200,000 voting. Still a small turnout, but more than people expect.
Only got a few seconds, but isn't it just heartbreaking for these one-time candidates like Leonard, who 30-year military career, great on resume, spends a couple $100,000 of his own money to get no more vote than he would if he spent nothing.
Exactly.
35% if you write your name down.
Election day, Ted Nesi and myself were talking, and we said it's going to be 65-35, and it was, because that's basically what a Republican gets in the 1st congressional district.
It's amazing. All right, happy holidays.
Happy holidays
to
you.
Thank you. We'll keep trying to figure it out. The final word. We're in final word when we come back. I get a general sense that you're starting to pay attention to this thing. Eventually, the dentist says, all right, the numbing agent's going to wear off and you better take some Advil. We'll be taking a lot of it. See you.